By now, you all know the tragic story, so Jorge, creator of Epic the Musical, told me that I'd be making a video game for him, so I used all my savings to build this professional development studio. Then he said, "No game for you!" Actually, he didn't say anything. He's been completely silent on the matter after leaving me high and dry, but hey, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Who said I'm mad? The bright side to getting screwed over like this is that now I get to develop my own game with complete creative control, and that is exactly what I did. Well, what I'm doing. Ladies and gentlemen, and all other things, allow me to introduce you to my new big project, Jelly Jean! The crowd goes wild! Woo! The first prototype of this game is available now to playtest on Patreon. I am hoping to gather as much feedback as I possibly can each month while I develop, because I don't really trust my judgment alone. If you want to get in on helping shape the design of this game from the very start, head over to Patreon right now and try it out. I'll wait. Never mind, I'm impatient. You can do it after the video. Today, I want to talk about a few things. The overall vision that I have for this game, what I spent this month making, and how I see this project being able to proceed. Let's start in the beginning with an overview of what this game is going to eventually look like. So I have a lot of what I like to call micro-obsessions, things that intrigue me and I think a lot about, things that tickle my brain the right way whenever I consider them. You know, those things that populate your brain whenever you're left alone with the terrifying expanse of your own thoughts. Maybe someday I'll make a video about all of them, but for now, here's a summary of which ones are relevant to this video. Trees! Malleable materials. Big things on a little scale. Mushrooms. Duh. Evolution and genetics. Insects, specifically eusocial insects. Eusocial, for you people with girlfriends, is how you describe creatures that operate as a colony instead of as an individual. If they have a rigid class structure and a queen that does all the birthing, they're probably eusocial. Think bees or ants. Or British people. Oh, right. Shit, how are the Brits gonna reproduce now? At the start of this month, I went on a vacation with my family to Costa Rica, and I spent pretty much the entire time thinking of what I should make for this game. I like to doodle while I think, and I ended up doodling this design of a symbiotic slime colony thing. They got me pretty inspired, but I still hadn't quite found the right idea. While my family was feeding monkeys and getting pissed on by those same monkeys, I found myself more focused on the trees that those monkeys were playing in. Costa Rica is full of such beautiful trees, especially my favorite tree species, the strangler fig. These trees are just so freaking cool. They grow down from the tops of other trees and then literally strangle that tree until they... I kept imagining what kind of epic mini tales could be unfolding inside the trees, and one day I sat by one of them and found myself enamored by a colony of termites around its base. Oh my god, I've got it. So, here's the story that I came up with for the game. Actually, this doesn't feel right. Hold on. This'll work. A wave of cordyceps, that fungus that takes over insects' minds, is spreading through the No, I don't like this. I don't like this. A wave of cordyceps, that fungus that takes over insects' minds, like the zombie fungus that infects the ants and stuff, is spreading through the forest. The plot focuses on the ecosystem of just a single tree where the fungus has managed to infect the termite queen. Now, due to the eusocial nature of termites, it was able to easily spread to the colony of termites responsible for digging the tunnels that make up the interior of the tree, and subsequently infect pretty much every creature that calls the tree home. Now, anyone who enters the tree now immediately becomes infected, and so a small group of rebel bugs, probably, I don't know, leafcutter ants or bees, create a hero, a slime creature that uses the fungus as food source. They send this slime into the tree, hoping it will eventually find its way to the termite queen and put an end to the fungal menace. So that is the basic plot, but it's not actually the first aspect of the game that I fleshed out in my head. First and foremost, I was thinking about gameplay and what would make the experience unique. A project like this needs a hook, a unique spin on the formula that makes it stand out. And the hook that I came up with was having each run of the game basically simulate evolution and natural selection.
But Liam, how do you plan to do that?
Shut up, I was obviously getting to that. I'm sorry, I love you, hypothetical viewer. Mwah. I want the game to be a roguelike, and again, for those of you who have felt the touch of a woman, a roguelike is a genre of game characterized by crawling through a procedurally generated dungeon, but if you f up and die, you have to start over from the very beginning, and you lose all your progress. Some modern examples would be things like Hades, I believe is one, or Peak. Peak counts, right? Each run you die, you have to restart. Yeah, Peak kinda counts. Normally in a roguelike, you get to carefully craft a build for your character, and that build gets progressively upgraded. But that's loser baby garbage. I want to replace this traditional system with one that emulates the way genes mutate and die out or survive through natural selection. I have always been obsessed with evolution. Legitimately, I spend most of my free time just drawing the ways animals would hypothetically adapt to a fantasy environment, or even programming rudimentary simulations where I can watch a bunch of bugs mutate and evolve through generations. So, here's how I plan to shoehorn that same concept into a 2D roguelike platformer. While you explore the infested tree, your slime has to constantly consume cordyceps spores to replenish its mass. And when you defeat an enemy, you can absorb its genes and store them in your DNA for later. At the end of each level, you exit the interior of the tree and find yourself on a branch where you fight a larger infected animal like a bird or a snake as a boss. By beating this animal, you are able to absorb so many spores that you undergo mitosis, splitting into, let's say, 3 slimes. Each of those slime stats mutate a little bit, increasing or decreasing, but more importantly, those genes that you've been absorbing are shuffled around and inherited randomly by the slimes, giving each of them unique abilities. For example, let's say you took down a spider enemy at some point and absorbed some of its genes. Come mitosis time, one or more of your slimes will have the ability to shoot webs or climb walls or deal venom damage. You choose which of these slimes to continue with, and then move on to the next level with that build. Now, if you die in the next level, you're given the chance to retry the level with one of the slimes you didn't pick. Whichever slime makes it through was obviously best suited to the random environment of that particular level, and so it's the one that gets to pass on its genes and make up the base of the next mutation generation. Mutation Generation. That's a sick band name. Has Mutation Generation been claimed? I'm gonna look that up after this. Don't take it! If it hasn't been taken, that's mine. I call dibs. Nobody steal that. Obviously, there are a lot of kinks to work out with this kind of system. I mean, like I said, normally in a roguelike, if you die, you're done. But I want to give the player 3 chances so that they can use the different slimes. Might mean I have to kick up the difficulty a bit to compensate. I'm also not sure how I want to handle things like health. Part of me wants to use a single mass bar for everything, kind of like Peak. Getting hit or using abilities drains your mass. On the one hand, this would encourage the player to be aggressive since you have to kill enemies to eat their spores and heal, but it would also discourage the use of abilities. So I don't know. That's why I think playtesting is going to be so important. You guys are going to help me figure this out.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you come in. What am I drinking, you ask? Well, a fancy man such as myself cannot sup upon such literary finery without also indulging in an appropriately themed beverage. That's why I'm enjoying epic musical themed loose leaf teas by the Gilded Tiefling.
These teas, of course, come in 3 godly blends. Holy Moly by Hermes, Chimera Call by Circe, and Quick Thought by Athena.
If you wish to purchase any of these delicious brews so that you can pretend to be as fancy as I pretend to be, simply visit my affiliate link in the description below. Now please, get out of my house. I don't know who you are, I didn't invite you in. I'm very frightened.
Now I've covered my ideas for the game, and before we continue on to what I've made so far, let me address what I'm sure most of you have already commented. An infection taking over a kingdom of bugs and a special hero is created to deal with the infection? This is just Hollow Knight! So yeah, it turns out that by building a story around what I'm interested in and what fits the gameplay loop I'm going for, I sort of reverse engineered something really similar to Hollow Knight's plot. I'll have to work really hard to make sure I can clearly distinguish it, but I'm not too worried since this won't be a Metroidvania and the gameplay is going to be pretty vastly different. Now let's talk about the prototype that I made this month. My plan going forward is to work on the game the first 3 weeks of every month, and then get people to playtest the last week while I work on a video like this. Since I was on vacation for the first half of August, this initial demo is just the result of 1 week of development, so expect more from coming playtest months. That being said, I'm fairly proud of being able to get a playable demo out in just a week. The most important part of any 2D platformer is how it feels to control the player character. So before anything else, I wanted to get the movement feeling right, and that's what this week was about. Ultimately, the way you control your character informs things like abilities and level design, so it seemed like a sensible place to start. The first step was to make a character to control. I have a bad habit of diving really deep into the artwork before actually fleshing out the mechanical gameplay, so I forced myself this time to work with the most basic of sprites, the humble square. Isn't he so beautiful? Oh, I love you, my son. I'm gonna name you Gene. That's not going to get confusing, right? The second step was to add physics, so I made a ground, I slapped some gravity on my boy, and... No, my boy!
Father, help!
After making sure that Gene was playing nicely with the ground, I started work on the movement scripts. I made a bunch of parameters that I could adjust in the editor to change the feel of the movement, like acceleration, deceleration, max speed, etc. I also made it so that you can jump as long as this box under the character is overlapping the ground. Maybe someday you will discover the joys of flight, my child. But today is not that day. I think it's really important to keep the character feeling responsive while jumping, so I spent a lot of time tweaking the jump so that you can adjust the height based on how long you hold the button. And when you release the button, you immediately start following. Yes, I know this is how Hollow Knight works. It's not my fault Team Cherry basically perfected 2D platforming. It would be nice to be able to explore more than just a flat plane, so I expanded the level a bit, and since I'm such a helicopter parent, I wanted to make sure I could keep a constant eye on my boy. I set up a camera to smoothly follow him around, and now I can sleep easy knowing that Gene is under constant 24/7 surveillance. Hey, he's not old enough to have a girlfriend. You get out of here. I noticed that Gene was having some stuttering problems. Not like a speech impediment. He's fluent in 12 languages, but when moving. So I greased him up with some I can't believe it's not butter, and that seems to have fixed the issue. While thinking about other 2D games that feel good to move around in, my mind immediately went to one of my other favorites, Smash Bros. In Smash Bros, you can initiate a fast fall by pressing down while falling, and I really like this. So I stole it. Not outright. In my implementation, you can stop fast falling whenever by letting go of down. At this point, the character felt kind of okay to maneuver, but it definitely looked stiff. I mean, I love Eugene, but I don't think people are really getting slime from your current design. I added some super basic squash and stretch animations, and man, did these make a difference. It was already looking more jelly-like, and I found that the animation actually affected how I was playing. I was jumping a lot after landing just because the character looked like it should bounce. I also added an eyeball so that you could see which way Gene is facing. Oh, to be that little slime, opening his eye and gazing around him at the beautiful world for the first time. Next thing was to add crouching and crawling. This was pretty simple. The part that took the longest here was just making sure you couldn't uncrouch while in a confined space. Once that was done, I wanted to try something. I wrote up a script for making a platform move and let Gene try standing on it, and yep. Yeah, alright, yeah, that makes sense. I fixed this by telling the platform to basically grab anything on it and carry it along with it. Unfortunately, Gene still gets a little nervous when platforms move, and he goes back to stuttering, but I used all my fake butter at breakfast, so that bug stays for now. So, back to the environment. I made a blurry background so that Gene and I weren't just stranded out here in the void. Now I wanted to add some verticality to the level, since the final product would mostly be about platforming up. Or down. I'm not sure. Because termites live in the ground, maybe you're actually going down the tree. I can't get focused on that right now. It made sense to add wall jumping as a mechanic then. The logic here was a bit more complex than other movements, but I managed to get my boy leaping between walls like Spider-Man and sliding down them like the much less popular hero, Greasy Spider-Man. Then I worked on making one-way platforms like you'd find in most TD? Like the bank? Then I got to work on making one-way platforms like you would find in most 2D platformers. These stupid yellow lines are easily would have given me the most trouble so far. Even now, I haven't managed to get them entirely bug-free. I'm glad I chose such an F-tier color to represent you. It was at this point that I started showing my progress to some of my friends, and for some reason, most of them had pretty much the same first impression.
Oh, so this is like a Geometry Dash clone?
No.
Well, I just saw the squares and...
Geometry Dash doesn't own squares! Okay, clearly, if I wanted people to focus on the movement of the character, I needed to use some actual sprites. Hey, look on the bright side. I made it all of 4 days without giving in and adding artwork. I drew up some basic placeholder sprites for Gene and gave him a makeover in-game. I also fleshed out the animations a bit to work with the new sprites, and I am going to need to come up with my own animation solution because Unity's standard animation workflow, it's going to get out of hand pretty damn quickly. The basic movement was done, but with only 1 day left before I wanted to launch the playtest, I realized that there wasn't anything to, do with that movement. So I wanted people to really engage with the playtest. I needed to give some kind of objective. I extended the environment, drew up a DNA sprite, wrote a script for it, and scattered those bad boys all around. Then I made some logic for tracking how many you've collected and added a timer to see how fast you could get them all. I love speedrunning. I think it would be really fun to turn the playtest into a competition, so if you take part, screenshot your final time and send it to my Discord. Whoever has the fastest time by the next playtest will win a sweet prize. This is my current best. Go see if you can beat it. Nobody has as of recording this, so go tell all your sweaty gamer friends they should get involved and make me look like a noob. If you want to take part in this playtest and also help support me as an indie developer, check out my Patreon with the link in the description. It only costs as much as a mediocre sandwich, and it will really, really help me get back on my feet. I am so excited to keep working on this project, and I really hope you guys will help me make it the best game it can possibly be. If you want to go above and beyond and join the ranks of patrons like Alyssa Tribolette, Caspian, and Elliot Games, you also get a custom commission drawing from me each month. Here are just a few examples of ones I've done for them. Thank you so much to everyone for helping me make this dream a reality. I love you all, and I will see you at the next playtest. I could have animated that in post. I don't know why I actually crouched down. Thanks again for watching the very first Jelly Jean devlog. Before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so that you won't miss the next one. If you have any ideas for this game, feel free to throw them in the comments below. And, like the video, I'm really hoping this first devlog can clear the algorithm hurdle. Oh, and another big benefit I want to mention for Patreon, even at the lowest tier, is that you get to join me and the other patrons for a weekly game night. We play Discord games, Jackbox, Among Us, plus just hang out and chat. It's super fun. I hope you will consider coming and playing with us. Okay, being a disembodied voice after so much time on camera is kind of scaring me, so I'm gonna go now. Bye!